We felt it could be part of the Nifty in about 5 years. It could be that big because that's what usually happens. You underestimate the own potential of what you had planned for. So we are continuing with ICICI Bank, but it's a no-brainer. I mean, like, ICICI में हमको जाके कुछ बड़ा फंड बहुत बड़ा रिसर्च नहीं करना है. वो ICICI है हम लोग उसे ले लिए. So financials में हमारा एक दो जो है वो बड़े-बड़े नाम हैं. But other financials stocks we hold, they are non-lenders. They are bottom up.
For all to know what's going on inside Arun as to what's going to happen in the market.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the launch episode of Wealth1 podcast, and where we get a lot of market insights, the financial universe, and do a lot of work on PMS and AIF for our viewers. My name is Narender Agarwal, and it is my pleasure to be here. Today is a very special day because we have one of the star performers of this industry, Mr. Arun Subrahmanyam, who is the founder of Ampersand and also is the fund manager for the Category III AIF. So please welcome Arun sir. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in, and it was great to have you here.
Thanks, Narendra, for having me here.
So Arun sir, thoroughly impressed with your illustrious journey and the 3 decades that you have been here in the financial markets. This is very impressive. Okay, and your journey as a star analyst in Merrill Lynch, and then having your own company, having your own Cat 3 AIF. Okay, that's a huge decision. So there's a comfort space you have when you have a great job in a multinational company, and so how did this entire journey play out for you in this financial markets? So the viewers would be very interested to know this.
Yeah. See, actually, Merrill Lynch was my last job. I mean, I made it my last because I had done enough of it. I started in the late 80s. I'm a chartered accountant by profession, but I don't have an accountancy background. I'm a maths graduate, and then, of course, I went to chartered accountancy. And then I came to Bombay. I was fascinated by markets. And those days, for people who pre-Harshad Mehta era, as they call it, there were not many avenues to actually get into the financial market. There were a few brokers. There was no organized research. It so happened, and there were a couple of institutions, some multinational banks, and a couple of institutions. So I started my career with ICICI when it was not a bank. I had a long stint there. And then when markets opened up, the financial markets opened up in 1992, I managed to get into the research side, institutional research. And then thereafter, it was completely everything to do with markets. So I switched a couple of jobs. I even worked abroad. But all along, I had this passion of wanting to manage money. I was obviously doing a bit of my own, but that was nothing. That was very, very minuscule. So when I did finally hang up my boots and said I've had enough of slogging, I chose to start this venture. Even then, I was not very sure how to go about it because I was alone, and I don't know how many people I will attract to make this work. So it was very slow. I mean, I got somebody who actually helped me set up the office, and then I was not very sure whether to take up a license of an AIF or a PMS. I got an AII license, investment advisory license. So we ran Ampersand, which was incorporated in 2016. I ran Ampersand for 1 year as with the IA license, but it was great, but also because the markets were doing quite well, but it didn't do much in terms of the visibility of the brand, which I wanted to build. That happened in 2017 when we applied for the license for the Cat 3 AIF. I also had a couple of my colleagues who I had worked with prior to my being in Merrill Lynch. They also decided to join me, and that's how we started in 2017.
Wow, that's great. So being 20 years into the financial markets, doing a job, okay, and then taking that leap of faith, saying that now I'm going to stop it and start something of my own. I'm going to create something of my own so that
Yeah,
I leave that legacy behind.
yeah.
So this has this is something miraculous, and I believe that all our viewers, they have to go through that decision where they are in the crossroads, uh, where the time is telling them either take a right or a left,
Yeah.
and they're stuck there because they're not able to take that leap of faith. So we want to understand, was it, what was the feeling that was going on? क्या वो बहुत एक्साइटमेंट थी, नर्वसनेस थी, या शेयर कन्विक्शन था कि मैं कर लूंगा ये काम?
नहीं, नहीं, मुझे दुःख यही इसी बात का है कि आई डिडन्ट स्टार्ट इट अर्लियर, आई डिडन्ट डू दिस अर्लियर। सी क्या होता है कि इफ यू हैव कम फ्रॉम द लेट 80s 90s, दैट पीरियड, टाइम पीरियड, व्हेन जॉब्स वर स्carce, money was hardly there.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So to actually then run your house and then actually to build up some kind of net worth to be comfortable with doing something on your own
Mhm,
is very difficult.
mhm,
I'm not saying people have not done it, and
mhm,
there are lots of people have done it very successfully. But which is why I said I should have done this earlier. But uh, why I did it probably in the uh, at the time when I just was not enjoying working in a in an organization. So I
yes.
just wanted to do
So it
something
was
on my own.
kind of a burnout that was happening,
Absolutely.
and you wanted
So
to a quick change that should
absolutely.
come in. Yeah.
So but the thing is that the burnout is actually it's a very dangerous word, because once you say that you're burnt out, so if you're starting to do something on your own, then what kind of life do you have?
Yes.
But the fact is that I was burnt out of doing a very regular job,
Yes.
but I really wanted to pursue my passion of being involved in the equity markets, and I was very passionate about stocks,
Hmm.
meeting companies, studying companies, investing, and obviously partaking in that whole journey of growth. So that is the reason why I did this. And I realize now that in the last 8 years of doing what I'm doing, I probably am working as much as I did earlier.
Mhm.
But obviously, it is more relaxing because I'm doing something which I wanted to do with
Yes.
nobody to question me as to, uh, you know, uh, what hours I have to keep or whom I have to report
Yes.
to and things like that. So yeah,
So
it's obviously a
your
great feeling.
so your family supported
Yeah,
in
yeah,
taking that leap.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, in fact, my wife was wondering when I'll actually quit my job, because it was that
Taxing on her.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that was a no-brainer.
So we understand, when you working in a multinational company, you are, as an analyst, you are lost somewhere in the spreadsheets, lost into Excels, lost into protocols,
Mm,
processes,
mm,
marking the time, this that. So you're working basically like a robot.
mm,
Uh, from there, transitioning
mm.
to actually managing money for your investors. Okay, and suddenly the transformation is about responsibility, is about having that conviction, building that trust, okay, and also handling your emotions
Hmm.
at the same time.
Hmm.
So how did you transition yourself or your inner feelings, uh, working like a machine in all these years in the financial markets, I should say, to a very creative, innovative fund
So,
manager?
so I should debunk what I did prior to starting this, because what I did earlier is what made me what I am today.
Hmm.
Uh, I really enjoyed doing what I was doing, and that is what led to me doing what I'm doing today.
Hmm.
If I had not got the platforms which I had worked with,
Hmm.
then nobody would have, I
Yes.
wouldn't have had the confidence to do something like this. So what I enjoyed, apart from the fact that obviously I got to meet a lot of people and travel and meet
Mhm,
corporates and things
mhm,
like that, and obviously helped my whole journey of being able to market myself and get that confidence of actually trying to
mhm,
speak confidently about companies and stocks.
mhm.
That is what actually eventually led to me doing what I'm doing, and finally, as some people say, ending up in a show and talking to your podcast in short, talking to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, uh, when I started this, I really didn't know where I wanted to take this
Yeah. So it
organization.
was all cloudy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So because but I knew that maybe
Hmm.
I I wanted to relax a bit,
Hmm.
but the people who were reposing faith in me and joined me, I owed them a duty of actually trying to
Yes.
build something.
Yes.
And that is what we are trying to do. It's
Hmm.
been very slow for us for reasons which I'll probably not want to get into
Fair
unless
enough.
you
Yes.
ask me. But it's been satisfying. Um, so things which you took for granted when you're working in an organization, here you have to do all of it yourself,
Yeah.
whether it is managing people, whether it is everything, right from
I can
renting
understand.
out property to managing your colleagues, to everybody,
So
and then of course
yeah.
the work itself, to imbibe the same processes which you had learned, to imbibe that and pass it on to your colleagues. So
That's wonderful,
yeah.
and I can already see some goosebumps happening seeing your journey, how it is going. So Arun, I would like to understand, for every person, every fund manager specifically, there is that first jackpot, that's the first hit that you've made successfully when you started managing the funds,
Yeah.
and that first win is always very close to your heart, and
Yeah.
somehow that first win also forms your DNA, it somehow shapes into your DNA, but that's when you really punch the
Yeah.
air with your fist, say I've done it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can share with our viewers as to what was that moment, we would like to visit that moment.
See, I'll tell you. Strangely, that moment came very, very late
Hmm.
for me. I mean, it didn't happen like when I said,
Yes.
okay, we are starting a fund, we are going to
Mhm.
manage money, and
Yeah.
we're going to do wonders. It didn't happen. It didn't
Hmm.
happen in the first 6 months. It didn't happen in the first year.
Hmm.
It didn't happen in probably 2.5 years. I don't know.
Hmm.
Whereas when I was actually working as an analyst,
Hmm.
the high which I used to get in identifying names,
Hmm.
uh, 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 which whereby clients
They're good. Yeah.
listen to your advice and they made money.
Yeah.
That was a high for me. It was as if you yourself are participating in it.
Yes.
But obviously, you have to put your money where
Mhm.
your mouth is. So that whole
Mhm.
paradigm shift which happened by when I was starting the fund. The first thing I obviously did was that I put in money in the fund. So
Mhm.
bulk of the money which actually we were managing in the first 2 years belonged to the sponsors, partners, and most of my friends, ex-colleagues,
And that's
and
where the
etc.
responsibility even increases. Yeah.
Yes, yes, but at the same time,
Mm,
there was this confidence that they will trust you and they
mm,
will not demand too much of you.
mhm,
They will be with you. They will
mm,
be at least for a couple of years or 2 years. They'll be with you. Obviously, if things don't work out, then there's a different matter altogether. So that's what I was trying to tell you before I get to answer your direct question. That is the reason why we were very slow. We didn't actually get outside money
mhm,
for a very long time.
mhm.
Now coming to the jackpot within the firm and
Yes.
what happened, uh, strangely, it happened. I don't want to mention the COVID. See, we started late in 17,
Mhm.
so in 18 was a disastrous year for financial markets.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you remember what happened in 18. There was a SEBI which changed, which
Yeah.
had this which had this regulation in terms of market cap classification.
Yeah.
Most of the PMSs did extremely badly. Even some of the mutual funds which managed large cap companies, large cap
Mhm.
funds, they did well, but most others did very badly.
Mm,
We
mm,
we we managed to return some. We managed to generate some return.
mhm.
19 was an okay year, and 20 we had COVID. Right. So if I tell you my first multi-bagger happened post COVID, that's a no-brainer, right?
Yes.
Everybody got the same thing.
Everyone.
Everybody
Yes.
everybody made money.
Yes.
So while we did get multi-baggers from COVID, which are of course investments which we had made prior to COVID,
Mm,
I don't want to count that as the
mm,
investment which delighted us. But the ones which we did in 21 and 22,
mm,
which was completely nothing to do with the COVID related disruptions or
mhm.
nothing to do with that, was a company called Varun Beverages. And Varun Beverages was at that point, I think, about a 30,000 or 35,000 crore market cap company.
Hmm.
And we felt with that Pepsi franchise and the fact that they just introduced that product Sting, we felt that it can be a very, very large company.
Hmm.
The market, addressable market was so huge.
Hmm.
We felt that it could be a large company. And currently, I mean, when I say currently, then it was probably part of the mid cap or something, or maybe not even a mid cap. I don't remember. We felt it could be part of the Nifty in about 5 years. It could be that big.
Oh, you predicted
we
that.
we thought we
Okay.
thought it
Yeah, all
can
right.
happen. But those days, nothing was happening in terms of companies going from X to 5x. Nothing was
Yes.
happening, right? In 2021,
Yes.
nothing was happening.
Yes.
But Varun Beverages actually did so well for us.
Yeah.
And we had to start taking profits within 18 months, which in hindsight I regret. Because that's what usually happens. You really roll. You
Yes.
yourself
So you
don't
want to book
underestimate.
something so that at
You
least,
underestimate the own potential of what you had planned for.
yeah.
But that was the first one which you actually invested and which did extremely well for us. There are lots of companies we still hold some of Varun Beverages.
Yes, we saw that. I
yeah.
think it's a something that you say that this is my win, so I will will keep it in my portfolio.
Correct. We own some Varun Beverages, which hasn't done well in the last 1 year, but that's expected. These companies, they go through these cycles where some of them don't do well. But once you've established the DNA of the company, which it is, then you should not lose faith in it and say, okay, I've just got in and I should get out. So if you look at our investments, the investments we have made, we have got several multi-baggers, but most of the multi-baggers which you'll see in our portfolio have not happened because they were micro caps or stocks listed in the SME or things like that. They were mostly well-respected, recognized companies. For example, Trent was one company which we invested when it was a sub 20,000 crore market cap company.
Okay.
In 2021.
Okay.
It went on to become what it has become, and obviously it has done badly in the last 1 year. But what it did in the last 5 years, it established that DNA of that company, and people started recognizing it as what it. And a lot of competitors started replicating the way these companies run their business. So these are the companies we actually were our initial successes.
So we see that Trent and Varun Beverages still in your portfolio.
Yeah, not very large, but it's some part of it. Yeah.
So you said that when you saw Varun Beverages going 1.5x, you liquidated some stocks just to book some profits, which is fair enough. But I have heard you saying this many number of times. The right stock, the right time, and the right size. Okay.
Yeah.
Now this whole thing is correct. It looks good. And as we talk, it looks fine. But हमारे investor को कैसे how does he come to know that this is the right stock and this is my size and this is my right time to enter? Because we see people picking up the right stocks, but sometimes the time goes off, sometimes the size goes off, and they're not able to really match it. So what is that mantra? क्या करें?
See, इसमें mantra कुछ नहीं है. इसमें क्या है कि when we say something like right time, right size, right stock, it is also telling us that we should do this. But I don't want to say that this is what we do. This is what we want to do. Okay, so
but there's so much of things happening in the market that you somehow gets
not just the market, but sometimes you do it too early, or sometimes you feel that you have missed the bus, so you do it. You don't do it with great seriousness, so you don't take a very large position. But some of the earlier ones we've had actually invested in, we have actually been early, but it feels it was the right time. Whatever we did post-COVID, and a lot of people have done post-COVID and done extremely well, and all of us should be happy that that phase happened and when everybody did well. I think they forget that a lot of luck played a lot of like it, some of that rubbed off on us. Luck played a very important part in contributing to the immense wealth which people have made in the last 5 years post COVID.
Yes, absolutely.
That is something which one needs to recognize, because you will go through phases like we are going through now. Uh, uh, in respect to the fact that you never knew that this, some gentleman will come and disrupt this whole
Global economy.
exactly. You didn't know that, but
Yes.
it happens. That's what you that's what
Brilliant.
is the
Brilliant.
best thing.
So, Arun, very interesting to note that 2017 2025, 8 years of AIF Cat 3 long only, 21% CAGR. Okay, and this shows a lot of discipline and a lot of market research, knowing what you are as a star analyst. So we want to understand कि ये इतने मार्केट साइकिल्स के बीच में ये 21% को स्टेबलाइज रखना, इसका क्या मंत्र है?
um, देखिए, मैं सी इट्स वेरी इजी फॉर मी टू से हाँ कर लिया 21%, बट क्या है कि we have realized in these 8 years that there will be good years and there will be bad years.
Yes. Yeah.
You can never have consistently great years.
Yes.
So what we try and do is that we don't lose our senses and do something to achieve some, like for example, when everybody was doing very well in 20 and 21, we did not change our investment style, what existed prior to COVID. So if you know our fund, if you've looked at our fund, we have a multi-cap approach. Although we are completely market cap agnostic, but we try and build a portfolio which will where the growth will determine whether the stock, and growth and valuations will determine whether the stock is worth investing or not investing. So it doesn't matter to us if it is a small company or a large company, as long as that mantra is there, it's okay. Which in some sense also means that we will rarely get into momentum. Momentum is something which we will not get into. We also don't get into something which where companies which where people have not heard of. Or I'm not saying there will be lots of companies which people have not heard of. When I'm saying people not heard of, there's something which where there's a very minimum. The track record of the management is maybe a couple of years. The companies come up only a couple of years ago, where the addressable market is not well known. The company doesn't have a track record, and so those kind of companies we typically don't try and chase. It could happen that those companies will eventually turn out to be great companies, but we don't. We've never particularly had an edge over microcaps. Because the fact is that most of them are undiscovered, yes, but most of them are also, they're there, they come, they basically think, get listed, operate in some known business and try and get some market cap and then probably disappear in 3 years. That can happen. I'm not saying it does happen. That can happen. I mean, 80s and 90s were famous for that. I mean, there were lots of companies which got listed, got delisted, and things like that. And you know, if you followed the phase of Harshad Mehta, the Ketan Parekh, and all those times, companies which were there in the Nasdaq boom, during the Nasdaq boom, a lot of companies converted their business model to include some part of technology. You know, that's
मुझे सॉफ्टवेयर का पाई मिल जाए.
exactly. So those are the companies we obviously strictly avoid. We just don't want to do that. Then what we do is that we avoid PSUs, not because PSUs don't have value. They have immense value, because PSUs it's highly regulated. The government of India decides where this PSU, what will happen to this PSU, what kind of policies will drive the growth of this PSU. They will decide how much dividend it will give, what the capex will be, everything. So that is something which we don't therefore typically invest in. It's not that we've never invested in it, but typically if we find a private company which is
in that sector, then you prefer that.
We prefer that, even if paying a little more. So those are the two things. And third thing we avoid is pure commodities, which are completely, which have very short cycles, where you make money in 6 months, 1 year, and then you again ditch that and get into something else. Like you get into chemicals, then you get into paper, then you get into steel, and all kinds of things. I'm not saying these people. I'm not saying these are not investable, but we don't have any kind of proficiency in predicting
in the
in that cycle.
cyclical.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
So what we typically try and invest in are structural themes, themes which are more, they are more long lasting. So if I invest in a company, let's say in year 1, year 5, the company will be of a much bigger size, and in that process, the stock will deliver superior returns. So as long as the whole journey you can be delivering consistent, it's coming with the original question was
Is
the
consistent
consistency
returns,
or consistent returns, whether that is 21 or whether it is 18 or 24, whatever it is, as long as it's consistency, where people are not surprised by the fact that you're doing badly now and you're doing so well last year and things like that, I think we are okay. So that's
So I fully understand about micro caps, and we don't see any micro caps in your portfolio. So we understand your ideology on them because they are very unstable, probably, or maybe illiquid. You can say.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
see, micro. I don't have anything against micro cap or small cap. So, like I said, for us, we are market cap agnostic. It so happens that in micro cap we don't have the advantage or edge to study that company in great detail and get that advantage over the others.
Probably because of the lack of data
Exactly.
or the lack of history,
Absolutely.
and so they do not fit into your fundamentals.
Correct.
That's fair.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to, this was interesting. I want to understand PSUs. So the COVID run was all about PSUs all over.
Yes.
So, and what you said, ki PSUs से आप थोड़ा सा दूर रहते हैं. So were you not part of that
No,
massive bull run that came in?
So post COVID, the two segments which did incredibly well, PSUs is something which you're right.
Yes.
Every commodity did well.
Yes,
there was,
absolutely.
There was a supply. There was there was a supply shortage, supply disruption rather, and because of that, prices of all commodities shot up. So a lot of commodity companies repaired their balance sheet, so to speak, in that period. We hardly participated in that. But what we did is that we actually invested very heavily in IT. Because IT that time, if you remember, when there's a lockdown, work from home was the one which everybody was doing, and which sector better than IT to work from home? So we actually invested quite significantly in IT, and that actually did extremely well for us in 20 and 21. 22, it
so
didn't.
That kind of compensated for you not being part of
kind
PSUs.
of, not fully, but kind of.
Okay.
It did that.
Yeah.
And the advantage of investing in IT at that point in time was that the quality of those companies was never in doubt. All the companies had good pedigree, high ROEs, strong cash flows. So that was never in doubt. So that is something which we did because our whole investment style and the way we've actually working in places where we were taught to look at companies in a particular way, and my colleagues also came from the same background. So that is the reason why we typically tend to gravitate towards companies like which are well managed and accessible, rather than the ones which are not.
Understand.
I'm not saying that, again, like I said, this is not an advice. This is just something which we do.
When I was studying your AIF Cat 3, okay, it's a long only, and but when I see all the other Cat 3 AIFs, okay, it's long and short. Also, they're using derivatives. And I don't see you going into that space. So was it by choice, or was it by your fundamentals that was taking you there, or you are a bull by as a DNA?
No. See, initially when we started, we still are a one scheme. We just have one scheme, right?
Yeah.
It's a long only scheme. And we have a lot of people have actually told us, when are you going to start something else and all that.
Hmm.
So that's a different part. That's a different topic. But coming to this long short and derivatives and things like that, the reason why we didn't do it and we
Mhm.
didn't think of doing it is that the tax structure is completely different.
Okay.
So if I need to do something which is long short, or which is not long only,
Huh.
then I have to bear the consequences of
Higher
paying very, very
taxation.
high
Yeah.
taxes.
Okay.
In fact, the ours is an open-ended fund.
Mhm.
So when the AIF started in India,
Mhm.
most AIFs started as close-ended
Okay.
because of the tax issues, because people were not very sure how the taxation will be dealt in case of AIFs. Mutual funds are very simple. They have a pass-through, so they don't need to bother about taxes.
Mhm.
PMSs anyway doesn't matter because the demat account is in their own hands, so the investor pays the taxes. The
Yes.
AIF, we bear the taxes on behalf
Yes.
of the investor.
On behalf.
So it was at that point in time there was a confusion about how the
Mhm.
treatment of taxes will be. So as an open-ended AIF. So in that in such a scenario, I remember I shouldn't be taking the name of that
Mhm.
particular brand or particular house. They started they had a long only and they had a long short.
Hmm.
They ultimately had to shut the long short because of this
Taxation.
taxation issues. Yeah.
Okay. Oh wow, that's a lot of insight for our investors, Arun. Um, Going to the second best thing that every investor wants to understand is, after saying कि कौन सा stock चलेगा, the second question comes is कौन सा sector चलेगा.
Hmm.
तो जब हम आपके sectors देख रहे थे, in your portfolio, okay, we have capital goods, we have financials, we have your
Pharma,
consumer
consumer and pharma.
discretionaries, pharma. ओके, सो आपको क्या लगता है कि कौन से सेक्टर्स हैं जो कि अब अब चलेंगे, जो कि
हाँ,
आपके फोकस में आएंगे, और आपने ये वाले सेक्टर्स क्यों चूज करे हुए हैं? इनके पीछे कोई कोई स्ट्रैटेजी है या
हाँ।
ये बाय चांस हो रहे हैं?
नहीं, बाई चांस तो नहीं है, लेकिन हाँ, देखिए
हाँ,
फाइनेंशियल जो जो भी एक्सपोज़र है फाइनेंशियल्स में, तो उसमें हमारे पास हमने ज़्यादा सोचा नहीं है उसमें।
हम्म,
हम यू हैव अ चॉइस, ईदर यू पुट इन एचडीएफसी बैंक और
हम्म,
आईसीआईसीआई और कोटक और
हम्म,
समथिंग। And so we have put in one of
हम्म,
those.
ओके,
And the reason why we own ICICI Bank, I'm
हम्म,
just again not a recommendation. The reason why we invested in ICICI Bank, not because it was a better bank than HDFC or
हम्म,
Kotak,
हम्म,
but when we invested in ICICI Bank, there was a major transition going on in ICICI Bank in terms of change
हम्म,
of management, in terms of restructuring of the company or the
हम्म,
bank,
हम्म,
and that is where we got the alpha in
ओके,
ICICI Bank.
ओके,
And even today, it is managing it's managing its advances and its bad loans
हम्म,
in much better than the others.
the
So
others,
we are continuing with ICICI Bank. But it's a no-brainer. I mean,
हम्म,
like, ICICI में हमको जाके कुछ बड़ा फंड बहुत बड़ा रिसर्च नहीं करना है. वो ICICI है, हम लोग उसने ले लिया.
हम्म,
So financials में हमारा एक दो जो है वो बड़े-बड़े नाम हैं. But other financials stocks we hold,
हम्म,
they are non-lenders.
हम्म,
They are bottom up. So
हम्म,
if you look at our entire portfolio, while you have actually brought it
कंज्यूमर
down to
डिस्क्रिशनरीज
whether
है,
whether pharma
फार्मास्यूटिकल्स,
has, so
हेल्थ है.
whatever you look at
हम्म,
sectorally, it
हम्म,
happens to be finance, it happens to be pharma, it happens to be
हम्म,
consumer,
हम्म,
but mostly it is bottom up.
हम्म,
So हम लोग ने अगर कोई फार्मा का स्टॉक लिया है,
हम्म,
तो ये इसलिए नहीं लिया है क्योंकि वो फार्मा है, तो हम लोग को एक सन फार्मा लेना चाहिए या डॉक्टर रेड्डी लेना
हम्म,
चाहिए। तो फार्मा में छोटे नाम भी हैं जिसमें हम लोग पैसा डाल सकते हैं,
हम्म,
जिसमें एक नैरेटिव है, थीम है, जो
हम्म,
जहाँ पर हम लोग को लगता है कि ये इसमें ज़्यादा वेरिएशन नहीं होगा अर्निंग्स का।
हम्म,
देयर इज़ अ स्ट्रॉन्ग लीवे फॉर लॉन्ग लीवे फॉर ग्रोथ।
हम्म,
जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल द सीडीएमओ स्पेस जो हम लोग ने काफ़ी अर्ली आइडेंटिफाई किया था 22, 21, 22 में, तो हम लोग ने
जी,
वहाँ पैसा डाला था। तो दोज़ आर द वंस व्हिच आर एक्चुअली कंटिन्यूइंग टू होल्ड।
ओके,
So those are the kind of, so everything is bottom up. So while you sector, you're right. I mean, we have it gets identified as a sector,
हम्म,
but it is mostly bottom up. So हम लोग का आप देखेंगे कि फार्मा में 2-3 स्टॉक है, each will have a different growth path, or
हम्म,
each will have a different reason to for why we invested in it. But just because we invested in those 3 stocks,
हम्म,
we still may hold only some 8 or 9% in pharma.
हम्म,
But whereas if I had gone and said pharma में invest करना है, so and I invest in some of the large companies,
Mhm.
I would have had a very large exposure in pharma. So
Hmm.
so everything we do invest in, it is all bottom up.
Hmm.
So it's not based on what sector will do well and what sector will not do well. Having said that,
Hmm.
there is also a sector approach. You have to follow sector approach. For example, today very decisively,
Hmm.
the market is telling you, not the market is telling you, it is very clear that there is a lot of geopolitical upheaval,
Yes.
and there is a, there is, so you better stay with some of the domestic names rather than venturing
Which
out
do
and buy.
not have exposure outside. So I'm coming
Yeah,
to, yeah.
exactly. So
Hmm.
it's a very obvious thing, but it's obvious to the extent that that is what you need to do.
Hmm.
But has that worked for you? If you had, let's say, a year ago, it wouldn't have worked much for you.
Hmm.
A year ago, you still would think that IT would do well, or pharma
Hmm.
would do well,
Hmm.
or some of the export oriented sectors would do well.
Hmm.
But अभी क्या हो गया है कि there's been a policy shift by both the government as well as the RBI.
Hmm.
Until last year, the money supply was very tight,
Hmm.
and the government was not so pro growth,
Hmm.
because they were going through elections, and they had cut back on a lot of spending.
Hmm.
But so last year, it was very difficult for one to justify holding some of those pure domestic plays.
Hmm.
But that has changed dramatically because the RBI has become accommodative. Interest rates are starting to get
Started to
cut.
go. Yes.
Government initially gave you this major tax rebate for all the salaried employees.
Hmm.
Now they're undertaking a GST based reform.
Yes.
So obviously that would be
Hmm.
where the money and the growth visibility will flow towards.
And that's where the focus of all the investors. That's where the money is going to flow in.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so if you look at while you have divided our exposure by sector, if you look at our consumer based
Hmm.
exposure,
Hmm.
it is more than 40%.
Hmm.
Because consumer based,
Hmm.
I'm not saying consumer sector,
Hmm.
consumer based. So we are obviously gravitating more and more towards that space.
Absolutely. Point taken. So you had mentioned geopolitical, um, the storms that are going on outside India. Okay, we have to have a very keen ear on that, and eye on that. And you had also mentioned one in the beginning of the podcast, one gentleman also. So I will name him. So you refrain from naming him. It's Mr. Trump
Hmm.
that the whole world is talking about, and he comes up with some statements. He comes up with some tariffs. He comes and then he rolls them back, and then he again comes up with double tariffs, and all that is kind of getting the entire world, the global economy, into a confusion state. Yeah. And how do you, as a fund manager, you navigate this entire scenario where you get up in the morning and you say that, oh my god, this bomb has exploded? Okay. And as a fund manager, how do you navigate this?
Yeah. So to start with, like I said, this topic can itself go on for a long time. So
Yeah.
I don't want to bore you or anybody
Yes.
else on that. But the thing is that whatever is happening, I mean, we should not take it lightly.
Hmm.
Obviously, somewhere our diplomacy has not worked. Somewhere we have not given the right. We have not reciprocated the way we should have, or whatever. I don't
Mhm.
know. What goes on behind the scenes, we don't know.
Hmm.
What kind of negotiation and discussions go on, we don't know.
Hmm.
But US is the most powerful nation in the world, and they
Hmm.
can do what they want to. They can
Hmm.
give whatever reasons they want to, and they can and if they stop at tariffs, okay, then you know. But the problem is that if you indulge more and more into this whole debate,
Hmm.
then it may not stop with tariffs. It may
Hmm.
go on to other things.
Hmm.
Then it becomes very dirty and very difficult
Fair enough.
as an investor.
Yes.
Then all bets are off.
Hmm.
But you know what you can probably assume as an investor.
Hmm.
You have to take some calls that
Hmm.
this will not happen or this will happen.
Hmm.
You know that we are in this whirlpool at this point in time, and we are trying to navigate with some of it
Mhm.
by luck, some of it by
Yes.
you don't know because tomorrow क्या आज कल टैरिफ 50% करने वाला था या नहीं करने वाला था, वो आज एक 24 घंटा पहले ही कर दिया उसने.
कर दिया.
तो ये सब तो चलता रहेगा.
हाँ.
But any thing is that if you ask my personal opinion, this is not something which I have conclusive evidence to show. My
Sure.
personal opinion is that I think once this whole turbulence wears off a bit, I think we will again try and strike some kind of deal,
Mhm.
negotiate.
Mhm.
Maybe there will be some things which will get rolled back over time.
Mhm.
That is provided we don't make too much noise. I mean,
Hmm.
that is the problem at this point in time. Everyone, somebody or the other, whether it's a diplomat or a government servant
Hmm.
or somebody from the government, they all want to keep तू तू मैं करते रहते हैं तो इससे कुछ फायदा नहीं है. But
Hmm.
ultimately, I think things will ease out. I mean, US also should realize that
Hmm.
we are a very very large nation,
Hmm.
a growing economy, and from our side, we know that you cannot do without the US. I mean,
Hmm.
it's such a important cog in the wheel that you
So
cannot do
it's
without it.
kind of coming together now that US cannot do without India and India cannot do without US.
At this point in time, US thinks it can do without India, and probably it can for some time
Hmm.
because we aren't really exporting much to the US.
Hmm.
US is worried that not worried, probably angry that they are not able to export much to India.
Hmm.
Um, that's their grouse.
Hmm.
Uh, but uh, uh, but the fact is that India is a large market, and ultimately, U.S. trade or any trade where the goods
Hmm.
are offered at a competitive price,
Fair enough.
we will be buyers. So I don't
Yeah.
think that's a problem. It should be a problem. So India is a big
Hmm.
market, but it needs to welcome other countries
Hmm.
to do business, and that's I'm saying it in a very crude fashion,
Yes. Yes.
simplistic
Yes.
way, but I don't but like I
We.
said, what is going to happen eventually between US and India,
Mhm.
we don't know how it's going to pan out,
Mhm.
but we are hoping that it gets sorted out, or at least eases something, the turbulence eases in the next coming months.
We fully understand your sentiments on this, and everyone around is hoping for this the same thing, that the global tension should ease out so that we all can concentrate
See, India has done
on building.
so badly. I mean, if you look at India, if you look at the Indian
Hmm.
markets, we have done so badly, and
Hmm.
there is a reason for this. I mean, the reason, of course, one of them
Hmm.
is staring at your face. The other things, obviously, like I said,
Hmm.
go- the last year, corporate growth was just not happening.
Hmm.
Money supply was so tight and things like that. But all the domestic issues, in large extent, are getting sorted out.
Hmm.
But we still have this overhang about how we sort out this geopolitical and this global issue. So that's still there.
So for example, you say that India has not done well in the last 1 year,
I'm talking about
as
markets. I'm talking about
yeah,
markets. Yeah.
as the markets, they have been really stagnant, or we also saw some drawdowns coming in, which is fair enough. uh, do you see any change in the next 3 years, 5 years, or let's say next 1 year? How do you see markets playing out in the next 1 year and 2 years, for all to know what's going on inside Arun, as to
See,
what's going to happen in the market?
yeah. So, okay. What will the next 1 year is probably going to be the most decisive in terms of where we go in the next 3 years.
Hmm.
I'm not going to give 1, 2, 3, and all. I'm just
Hmm.
saying next 6 months, let's say, probably will be the most decisive.
Is going to tell us whether we are going towards the
Whether we'll
downslide or we go
whether
up.
we'll probably stagnate
Hmm.
or just be
Okay.
just another economy,
Okay.
or whether we can really take off.
Okay.
Whenever we have had crises in the past, we have come out very well.
Okay.
Now it all depends on how, what policies and what kind of diplomacy we
Hmm.
kind of indulge in,
Hmm.
and what kind of, like I said, this GST reform, if it's actually done well,
Hmm.
and then it could be that trigger for making investors more confident of
Or
investing in
it's
India.
just an indicator that, okay, let's now go towards that.
Yeah. So the next 6 months will decide that. Now,
Hmm.
as far as where we should invest in or where India will go, if you looked at India, the only period of, let's say, a lost decade would probably be somewhere between 10 and 20, somewhere
Hmm.
between that. I'm not saying the 10 years. I'm just saying
Hmm.
that is a year we probably did not do anything
Hmm.
as a nation.
As a
It
nation.
started probably in 2008, and then maybe 17 or 16, 17. That period we did not do anything.
It was kind of a stagnation that was
Yeah,
happening.
everything was
Yeah.
wrong. I mean,
Hmm.
we had very high inflation.
Hmm.
Government was in a state of flux. So there was
Hmm.
not many policy decisions being taken, and all of that.
Hmm.
All of those things. So those things obviously have changed. To
Hmm.
that extent, I think we are far more stable. Our banking system is much more secure, much more stronger.
Hmm.
Currency until very recently seemed very okay, but now because of
Yes.
this issue, we are facing some kind of turbulence again.
Yes.
But other than that, like I said, we have actually we should have been, at least
Hmm.
we should have been a much happier state
Hmm.
as I'm speaking to you.
Hmm.
But it is not. But I think this also will pass. I think we'll probably wait for a couple of months or 3 months. I think
And I
sense will
believe
prevail.
with the kind of the systems that are being put in place, with the banking system, with the Aadhaar card system, with the basic UPIs, and getting the masses into mutual fund sahi hai, getting the masses into the system. I think that's the first step where we are saying, okay, we are making the base for this runway where India is going to fly high. So something like this is going to
Yeah,
be seen in the next 5 years,
yeah,
is what I understand. So I just want your view on that.
yeah. So you see, all said and done, until if you looked at investing in 70s, 80s, 90s, all those
Mm.
period. I mean, I was also not investing then, but I'm just saying, if you look back on history, there were pockets of investing. People who is completely regulated,
Mm.
and there were cycles, business cycles, and
Yes.
you could
Yeah.
either invest in
Yeah.
consumption, or you could invest in some
Mm.
other pockets of commodities and things like that.
Mhm.
But there was nothing. There was a power deficit. There was
Mm.
no investment in infrastructure. There
Mm.
was no there were no new age companies.
Mm.
There was no
Yes.
R&D. There was so nothing of that sort was there.
Yes.
So there's very limited scope of investing as far as stock markets are concerned.
Mm.
Maybe 20 or years ago, or earlier than that.
Mhm.
All that has changed.
Okay.
Today, there are many things which have changed. For example, the kind of investments which we have seen in power,
Mm.
or the whole we were an energy deficient country until a few years ago, and
And
now
now,
we are actually seeing this whole transition,
yes.
where we are actually not only been able to generate or distribute a lot of power, but
Mm.
also at a much cheaper cost.
Mm.
And now most governments are now saying that with solar coming in and taking off, and
Mm.
investments happening, most governments are also now looking to actually pass on the benefit to the customers.
Yes.
So eventually what you will see is India's manufacturing capability will become more competitive, because of power, because if you get power right. Then of course infrastructure, that is again a bottleneck. For decades that has been a bottleneck of
Yes.
how do we actually do business,
Yes.
not just inland but also out with other countries. That also is obviously seeing a far
Far better approach
exactly.
coming from the,
So
yeah.
eventually, I think if you ask me 3 years or 5 years from now, if there is no catastrophe or something which we can't predict, then you'll probably see India much stronger position than what we were,
What we are
what
today.
we are today. And
Brilliant.
which obviously means that there'll be many avenues to invest in markets, and markets by and large should do better than what they have done in the past 10 years.
So a very clear message from Arun is that India's shining story is intact, and next 5 years we're going to see a lot of developments, positive developments as far as India is concerned. If the things start to fall in place, and these 6 months is going to be very decisive. So let's wait and watch. Arun, just coming back to the subject of PMS and AIF.
Hmm.
Okay, so lot of our viewers, they ask this question कि क्या डिफरेंस है पीएमएस एआईएफ में, बेसिक डिफरेंस क्या है, और पीएमएस में इन्वेस्ट करें कि एआईएफ में इन्वेस्ट करें. सो इफ यू कैन इन फ्यू लाइंस टेल अस दैट द
हाँ,
क्रक्स ऑफ दिस,
हाँ.
सो इट
See,
विल बी वेरी
हाँ,
इंफॉर्मेटिव.
see, first of all, PMS में करना है, AF में करना है, फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. आप इन्वेस्टमेंट मैनेजर को देखिए, जहां आपको कंफर्ट है वहां करिए. कुछ कुछ इन्वेस्टमेंट मैनेजर हैं जो सिर्फ PMS रन करते हैं, उनका काफी अच्छा चल रहा है, तो वहां वहां हम लोग को कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं है.
Hmm.
The kind of people who are investing in AIFs, obviously they're slightly different in terms of their pocket wallet is slightly different. They can invest more because
क्योंकि PMS में is 50 lakhs and
यहाँ अभी 1
AIF
करोड़
is
है, 1
1
करोड़ है,
crore.
ठीक है. पहले 25 था, अभी 50, अभी यहाँ 1 करोड़ है. तो दैट इज द स्टैंडर्ड डिफरेंस.
Hmm.
बट इन टर्म्स ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट स्टाइल
Hmm.
एंड ट्रस्टिंग ए इन्वेस्टमेंट manager is what matters.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing, which of course, as somebody who's managing an AIF,
Hmm.
when I tell people, because there's a lot of pushback in terms of saying कि यार PMS में तो सब डीमैट में सब स्टॉक दिखता है, तुम लोग का AIF में स्टॉक दिखता नहीं है, हर महीने के बाद पता चलता है तुमने क्या लिया क्या बेचा. That's a big issue. That's a big issue because हम लोग कर नहीं सकते हैं कि हमारा पोस्ट टैक्स है, उन लोग का प्री टैक्स है.
Correct.
तो हम लोग कर नहीं सकते. बट एनीवे, that is not relevant. But what is relevant here is that अगर मार्केट वॉलेटाइल हुआ, एग्जाम्पल, तो आपको अगर PMS में आपको रिडीम करना है, तो आप रिडेम्पशन के लिए रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे और आपका स्टॉक को बेचना पड़ेगा. तभी आपका पैसा वापस मिलेगा. और क्या भाव में बिकता है, क्या होता है, वो पता नहीं है, लेकिन वो टिपिकली उस वक्त वो जो भी होगा. हमारे AIF में ऐसा नहीं है. हमारा पूल्ड अकाउंट है. सो पैसा चाहिए आपको, कल पैसा मिल जाएगा. NAV है, हर दिन का NAV है. तो आप ऐसा नहीं है कि मेरा 1000 करोड़ का फंड है तो 1000 करोड़ रिडीम हो रहा है. अगर 10 करोड़ भी आ जाएगा, 20 करोड़ भी आ जाएगा, तो it gets automatically from the pool of whatever cash we have, we can redeem that without damage to the NAV. So it's as simple as that.
So basically it's more fund and the fund manager driven decision rather than the actual कि मैं PMS में या AIF.
हाँ, and finally one small thing, of course, a lot of people have been coming to us in the last year, 2 years, is because the tax hassles. There are no tax hassles here. So यहाँ पर सब tax is taken care of.
In the AIF.
In the
yes,
AIF.
I understand. So one more very interesting question is that we see that the young generation, okay, they're doing phenomenally well. Okay, India, if you see that 40% of our population is under the age of 35 years. Okay, whereas the median age of US, China is coming to 40 years. So we're the largest young country. Yeah. And they're doing wonders. We see Indians all over the place, all over the globe, managing bigger things. The first 500 Fortune companies, 16 of them are Indian origin CEOs. Okay, so that means the education system of India is in place. Yeah, but one thing that I find missing, कि financial literacy, financial education हमारे एजुकेशन सिस्टम का पार्ट ही नहीं है. और एक ब्रिलियंट माइंड उसको फाइनेंशियल अपना कैसे सिक्योर करना है, नेटवर्थ कैसे बढ़ाना है, इन्वेस्टमेंट्स कैसे करना है, इसकी तरफ उसका फोकस नहीं होता क्योंकि कभी भी स्कूल कॉलेज में उस फोकस को नहीं डाला गया. Right? So he is in 25s, 30s, 40s, 50s, but still not kind of very clear about कि मुझे अपनी वर्थ कैसे बढ़ानी. So if you can give advice to our viewers, कि what should they do considering understanding that school college में बहुत डेप्थ में नहीं सिखाया गया, अब वो क्या करे ताकि वो उसको फटाफट समझ जाए.
So देखिए, इसमें यार ये एडवाइस देना बड़ा कठिन चीज़ है. बिकॉज क्या है कि आजकल तो ऑल फेयरनेस, आजकल के जो पीढ़ी है, they are much smarter than what they know what to do. उनको सब मालूम. बट एक्चुअली उनके जो पेरेंट्स हैं, उनको ही अब पहले थोड़ा चेंज करना पड़ेगा. सी, my parents, or probably yours, I don't know, but most of them actually were fixated about as investing in assets which you can visualize, you can see, real estate, gold, उस type का. अभी जो फाइनेंशियलाइजेशन जो हो रहा है, वो दैट इज बीन क्वाइट रैपिड. आई मीन, सो आई डोंट हैव एनी डाउट दैट इट्स गोइंग टू एक्चुअली इंक्रीज एज वी थिंक्स. या आई मीन, तो आजकल तो इक्विटीज छोड़िए, पीपल हैव गॉन टू एवरीथिंग ना, क्रिप्टो है, ये सब चीज चलेगा. तो उसमें एंड एवरीबडी इज सो टेक savvy in terms of where to invest, how to invest and things like that. And which is the reason why, I mean, if see, I mean, I'm not getting into this whole political statement. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if this current political dispensation had not been there, we wouldn't have seen so many of these startups and these,
Hmm.
these
Hmm.
so many of the platform apps and things like
Hmm.
that coming up, which have made life so much easier for all of us.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
So I think we are going in the right direction. We probably are getting a lot of people involved in it also, or people understand
Hmm.
how to go about it. As far as financialization and investing in equities is concerned, it's a cult which will take its own time, and
Hmm.
people will find their way. So because there are not much avenues to choose from, right?
Yes.
आजकल ज़्यादा कहाँ invest करेंगे अभी?
Hmm.
This is the
क्रिप्टो में कर
place.
नहीं सकते तो
Exactly.
इक्विटीज इज
So this is ultimately the way where you have actually, and
यस
historically, I mean, like I said, although I've been investing for quite some time, I wish I had stayed invested all the time,
ऑल द टाइम
but my work did not allow me to do that. But if people who have stayed invested for decades have seen the power of compounding, it's
So,
enormous.
like what Warren Buffett says, that my only thing I regret is starting late.
Like I said, I mean, I'm not quoting him, but I feel very sad that I actually started, even when
Late.
I started in the 50s. I mean, it
Yeah.
was too late. I mean,
Yeah.
there's, one needs to, yeah.
Excellent.
आपके दीपेंद्र गोयल जो हैं, वो दीपेंद्र गोयल ना,
हाँ,
जोमेटो, उनको
हाँ,
देखिए कितना कितना अच्छा किया है
हाँ.
उन्होंने. So he's created such a great
Yes,
a
absolutely.
platform.
And
Absolutely.
it's a net worth which is exploding like crazy,
Yeah.
just by being a delivery boy. So
Exactly.
that's a change in the cult that is coming in. And today, आज probably हम Zomato के बिना अपनी life imagine भी नहीं कर
Absolutely.
सकते.
Zomato की वजह से स्विगी है, स्विगी की वजह से ज़ेप्टो है.
Yeah.
आई एम नॉट एडवर्टाइजिंग फॉर एनीबॉडी. आई एम जस्ट सो
Yes, but they have become the kind of apps that you cannot live without.
हाँ.
It's like the Google or the Chrome that you need to have
See,
on your phone.
yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. See, in fact, I was so tech. I had no tech knowledge, but because of this, I've had to adapt myself
Adapt yourself.
to
Yes.
this.
Yes.
So yeah, so equities is something which people will rush to. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. So financialization of the entire community is something that Arun is predicting, and it's
No,
just
just
a time.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So anybody who's less than 35
Hmm.
should put at least 50% of the money in equities.
So
That's
the
it's
first thing is
as
that कि एक बार शुरू कर दो
हाँ.
और उसके
कम से
बाद
कम 50%. उससे सी जो 50-60 साल के हो गए, देन यू कैन थिंक ऑफ कि यार इक्विटीज नहीं चाहिए
Hmm.
हमको, फिक्स डिपॉजिट में डालना है या
हाँ.
कहीं डालना है. वो 50% ऑफ योर स्पेयर मनी शुड बी पार्क्ड इन इक्विटीज.
So that's a great advice, and I believe also that the era of FD is done and dusted with,
हाँ.
and अब तो जो नया जो दौर है वो फाइनेंशियलाइजेशन का है, और जितनी जल्दी आप इस बोट में आ जाएंगे वो उतना ही बेटर है. So everyone invite you to hop in. So that was very interesting talk with Arun from Ampersand, and I hope that my viewers liked it and it was informative, और आपको बहुत सारी insight मिलेगी. Arun is somebody who is a veteran in the industry and has immense experience, and it was great having you on the podcast, Arun, and I wish you all the luck
Thank
and
you.
all the wishes for superb growth of your AIF and all the ventures that you do in the future.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Nader. And
Thank you. Thank
pleasure
you
being
so
here.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've had a wonderful podcast, but would like to say that a small disclaimer that all the things that we have said is for educational purposes, and the viewers, the investors are requested and instructed to please take your own decisions while you're investing